Everybody, God bless. I hope everybody has a great day today. Today I want to talk about my spiritual / religious beliefs. I go through a lot of phases where sometimes I'm very expressive about it and tell a lot of people about it, especially online. And then I go through other phases where I don't talk about it for a while. And I feel like, that's depending on my mood, but also I feel like it comes from a lot of judgment that I receive from various kinds of people, so many different kinds of people on all ends of the spectrum, As a communist, I have a lot of communist friends who are completely devoted to materialism, as I am, as a scientific socialist, but are also atheists. They don't have any spiritual or religious beliefs. And some of them look down on people who believe in spirituality or religion, but there's a lot of them who are understanding and accepting, and there is some other communists who are religious or spiritual. But I said in a recent TikTok video, it pisses me off that I can't find anyone who thinks like me, who tries to synthesize these two very opposing ideas together in my worldview. And it's not something that I chose to try to synthesize together. It's just like, I really believe both these things equally. Understanding and developing materialist science for the better of the earth, so we can understand the laws of nature and use them for our advantage as people, and, to distribute the resources better, and have more management of the resources, by the people, the actual people who, the workers and all that. So, I'm a communist. I believe in science, but at the same time, I'm very religious. I say religious because even though I'm not orthodox in my faith, I'm gonna tell you in a second what my faith is. I do practice certain rites and rituals, and that's what I consider religious. Practicing specific rites and rituals particular to a certain faith, I chant mantras a lot. A lot of people don't know I always chant mantras. I'll say the one of my religion for you guys right now, the main one, just to give you guys the whole me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So that's the Maha mantra, the most powerful mantra they say in my faith. So, anyways, my faith is called Krishna consciousness. Now, I'm not orthodox in it, meaning I go my own way. But like I said, I do chant the mantras, read the holy scriptures, and practice devotion towards the deity we see as God is Krishna, and I'll tell you why first that this is my religion. I mean, some people, especially the atheist communists, like, you don't need a religion. Like, what's wrong with you? But I grew up in my mother moved us down from New York when I was like 6 or 7, and I started going to church, and because she met this guy, this country guy down there, and we went to his church. He grew up and went there all the time, and so I was raised going to this, it's called Free Will Baptist Church, and they are like very, very the opposite of Krishna consciousness. They say you can only be this. The Catholics are a cult. They're going to hell. Like, they don't associate with other kinds of Baptists even. Like, what I'm saying? They're like, they don't associate with a lot of other Protestants. Like, when you learn about it in school, you learn about Catholics and Protestants. In the southeastern United States where I grew up, they don't identify as Protestant. They don't think other Protestant. That's not a word they use. They're like, we're Free Will Baptist. They believe what they say is the exact way. And other denominations are misleading people. And so when I was 17 years old, I met a Krishna monk for the first time in Atlanta when I was traveling homeless. And I told him, I was like, I just believe that you can find God in any religion. Like, the Buddhists say nirvana, Christians say heaven, and all this, it's all the same, as long as you can find God anywhere. And they're like, yeah, we believe that too, all those other religions are gonna achieve whatever they're trying to achieve. And then he starts explaining to me what we're trying to do is connect to the highest, the highest being, what I'm saying? Like literally the highest being, what I'm saying? And it's hard to explain. Like I can't remember what he told me after that. So that's why I can't explain what concept he told me after that. But I just remember me telling him that and him saying that part specifically, all those other religions are going to achieve whatever they're trying to achieve. And to me, and if you go further and research it, they believe that, that all other religions, all these prophets like Jesus and all this stuff are a part of God, that basically God is in everything, and sometimes God is more potent in some of these people because they've reincarnated so many times, and in their last final life on this earth they're a teacher, and then they ascend, and that's what the spiritual community calls the ascended masters. So it's a religion that's very accepting. It basically says, yeah, all the other religions are right, but we believe that the supreme deity, they're like all other deities exist, all those other realms exist, all heavens, all hells exist, but we believe there's one specific deity, a personality that controls it all, the supreme controller. And that's who we pray to, and we know him as Krishna, and other people have come to know him as other names, in their own perceptions. So, and see that in itself, as a communist, I'm trying to evolve the perception. So it may not be a he, really is God is male and female. And it's not, gender is a spectrum, so it's not just male or female, it's like no gender or all genders, So, I support the LGBTQ, and that's one thing I told this brother out here the other day. I told him, I was like, I did some mushrooms, and I found out, like, first thing I found out, I talked to my great-great-grandfather who was in the Italian-American mafia in the early days, in the early 1900s, learned about his life. Then I connected deep back to my Arab roots and found out I was a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, So I was telling him this, and he's like, oh, certain people resonate with those energies, and I'm like, no, I don't resonate with them. I praise Allah as a spiritual being. Like in my mind, there's these spiritual beings, entities that communicate with us from the higher spiritual worlds down to the material worlds, and one of them is named Allah, and he is the most gracious and the most merciful God, and at a time and a place, the best way to inspire, a society, and a group of men to fight, and all these men to fight, was to make that certain faith at that time. Different things are called for different times, and I told him, like, my mission is to still worship Allah. I'm not a Muslim, but I acknowledge my roots, but say that we can worship Allah but not disrespect women, and all my respect to my Muslim brothers, because that's and I was telling them, like, that's my mission, to like really still respect the faith, but realize that you can still and that's what Muammar Gaddafi did. if you go to my channel, somewhere in my videos, you can find the documentary I reposted about Muammar Gaddafi. You know, he was still an Arab. He still loved God, but he gave women their rights, you know, in the country where they had none. And it was the most free place for a woman in the Middle East until the United States came in and had a regime change so that they could profit off their oil again, you know. And it's crazy. So, you know, I'm on a huge mission to develop and evolve the consciousness, and that speaks to me as a spiritual person, religious person, and, you know, as a communist, you know, because we believe in lifting the consciousness of the masses, making them class conscious, aware of their situation materially, you know. So this is another thing I was thinking about telling that brother yesterday. We were having this conversation. He said it was a good thing to do, you know, if that's your mission. You know, it's just one of the things that I feel like I want to contribute with this body I have on this earth right now. You know, I feel like I believe in reincarnation. I believe we have to, each incarnation, we have to give it our all and contribute the most that we can. And so I was thinking later after we had that conversation, you know, another thing I would have told him was, you know, if you really think about it, the most disrespectful thing you could really do to a Muslim brother is come up to them and try to deny that they are very in touch with God, that they are very deeply in a relationship with God and know God and are devoted to God and are very pious in their faith. I'm telling you. So you got to think it's a whole different culture over there in the United States, the West. You know, religion doesn't dominate our society as it still does in the Middle East, you know. And so the thing is, you can still respect Allah, respect Muhammad, the prophet, the last great prophet, and the whole faith itself, but acknowledge and understand that, you know, the practices of, you know, making women be a certain way submissive to their husbands or male members of the family is something that we want to leave behind, you know, and evolve from, you know. And so it's not my place to go over there, you know, as an American and say, oh, y'all need to live this way now, you know. But as somebody who acknowledges their roots, acknowledges they have Arabic roots. And I know that not just from taking the mushrooms, but I'm Sicilian and Spanish. And the Mediterranean Europeans, especially the Sicilians, because it's an island literally off the coast of Italy in between Europe and Africa. So we have a lot of North African and even Middle Eastern DNA, you know, in us, all the Mediterranean people. So it does trace back, you know. And that's why we're darker than the other Europeans, because we're mixed with the Arabs and the North Africans. So the thing is, but like I said, as someone who's born in the United States, has this opportunity to look around at various faiths. You know, I'm not in a society that's ruled by one faith. You know, even though Christianity is very prevalent, it's not enforced, you know. So I have this ability to try to look and observe the different faiths, you know, and we should not take that for granted, you know. The fact that we live in I would say pretty socially evolved